Okay, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for those of you who showed up and braved the traffic to get here. I know some people are stuck in traffic. It happened to me a couple of years ago when beta breakers, and I didn't realize it. And thanks to those of you who are on Zoom. This is Forum, Unitarian Universalist of San Francisco Sunday morning forum. And we're glad to see you here. And we have a special program, really interesting, and I'm really looking forward to it, a program this morning. For those of you who are present, you can take advantage of the breakfast that Melvin puts together. It's really good and pretty reasonable. The next thing that we're going to do here is as we always do for all of our forums, we have a recognition of the people who once occupied this land. And I'm going to ask David to come up and do the Ohlone recognition. Okay. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Bruce. Good morning. We, the members of the First Unitarian Universalist Society of San Francisco, acknowledge that our community is located on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone tribes, the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. We recognize that we benefit from living and working here, and we affirm their sovereign rights as First People. The Greater Bay Area is also the ancestral territory of the Miwok, Yokuts, Patwin, and other tribes. As the original stewards of this land, the indigenous peoples understood the interconnectedness of all things and maintained harmony with nature for millennia. We honor them now for their enduring commitment to our Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, David. So those of you who are here in person can take advantage of the fact that around this room, of the two rooms, the TSK and the MLK, are wonderful drawings and descriptions. And if you haven't already made your way around the room to take a look at them, I suggest you do so. They're very interesting, they're humorous, they're insightful. I had a great time one afternoon doing that. And the person who is responsible for that artwork and for the descriptions is here with us, and it's our great fortune to welcome her. The exhibit that is here and which he's going to talk about is called The Family of Man. It's a celebration through art and writing of the diversity and commonality of people. It is a performance by Leslie Goldberg, who's here, that utilizes painting, drawings, and spoken word. Leslie illustrates the beauty, the sorrows, and sometimes the absurdity of everyday life through her fictional characters. The characters are the next-door neighbor, the bar owner, the jock, the race car driver, the manicurist, the artist, the college professor, and I'm told by informed sources, potentially the moderators and audience members of UUSF forums. So be careful. Leslie is a former newspaper writer with the San Francisco Examiner, where she was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for her investigative reporting. She has taught writing and reporting at San Francisco State University and at City College of San Francisco. She's a cartoonist, obviously, and artist whose work has been displayed at the Sonoma Valley Museum of Art, the Sonoma Art Guild, the Spark Arts Gallery in San Francisco, as well as other places. She holds a master's degree in interdisciplinary art from Goddard College. Goddard College, I guess. She says, and I quote here, "For decades, I have been a process painter focusing on the meditative adventure of art making without much attention to the product. Leslie studied for many years with Stuart Cubley, author of Life, Paint, and Passion, and she's now a process painting instructor herself. And if you want to know what process, I had no idea what this meant, process painting, but because of this, Leslie's alerting me to this, I went online and watched some videos of it. It's very, very interesting, actually. Anyway, Leslie says she's learned how to bring imagination and inspiration onto the page, and I think that's pretty obvious. She says it's the center of my work, which rarely fails to surprise me and bring me understanding and joy. The family of man offers that joy and understanding to the world, and we're so grateful for her to be here to offer that to us today. So without more words from me, Leslie.
Okay. This is Melba. Melba has seen it all and lived it all. Bankruptcy, an unfaithful husband, cancer, addiction. Yet she gets up every morning, makes her bed, eats breakfast, and goes to work. Doing a job a lot of people wouldn't, but she carries on. One foot in front of the other, which sounds grim, but it isn't. Melba can laugh at a coworker's dumb joke or go roller skating or even sing karaoke. She takes flowers to sick relatives. Sometimes they're flowers she grew on her tiny patio. This presentation this morning is dedicated to Melba and all the Melbas of this world. I call it the family of man. Some members of this family of man you might have already seen portrayed on the walls of these rooms. Maybe you wondered, who are these people? Did she interview them? Is Melba one of her friends? Okay, well, the characters you see on the walls and in this presentation are fictional, but as I think you'll agree, we know them. They are our friends, our family, people we caught a glimpse of somewhere, somehow, and if I may be presumptuous, they are ourselves. This is Ben Barnes. Sometimes it feels like Ben Barnes was born in a newspaper office. Despite the hours, the exhaustion, the endless back and forth of competing agendas and opinions, there's no place he'd rather be. A front row seat on life, he's often said. Ben Barnes started out as a copy boy and moved up the ranks from reporter to editor to be the managing editor of a mid-sized East Coast paper, which at this point is struggling to survive. As he's gotten older, he's been better able to make the hard decisions he has to as part of the job and just move on. But there's been one exception, the layoffs. It was just awful. Sending out notices to some of the finest people he's ever known, people who work their tails off every day without complaint. But Ben Barnes knows it's only a matter of time before he gets a notice himself. At least he can retire and not have to go into public relations like some of the younger people have had to do. So he waits and watches. And every time he hears about another paper going under, it's a punch to the gut. Damned internet, he mumbles. This is Roland. Roland is a Shakespearean actor who loves to play villains. Iago, Richard III, Cassius. He even once played Lady Macbeth, who he called deliciously evil. When the weather is bad, Roland loves to wear a long black cape. And when the neighborhood kids see him, one will inevitably shout, "Dracula!" At which point they all run away, screaming and laughing. If he was younger, Roland would have definitely been goth and would have gone to Black Sabbath concerts. But alas, he's old and spends most of his evenings with his 14 cats rehearsing his lines. This is Luna. Luna has calculated she is 183 Earth years old. She hails from a faraway planet, the name of which cannot be pronounced credibly by Homo sapiens. Not that she has ever tried to tell any Homo sapiens the name of her birth planet. You could say she's a visitor from outer space, but she is more a spy, focusing like a laser on American fast food, Russian vodka, and the I Ching. This is Angelique. She does not like pets, dogs, cats, birds, whoever, whatever. She doesn't like the smell, she doesn't like the mess, and when it comes to dogs, she does not like the noise. Over her 45 years, she has been bitten by 3 dogs and attacked by 2 cats. A bird pooped on her most favorite jacket as she was out on a date and doing her best to look, if not glamorous, at least attractive. So the question is, did Angelique get bitten, attacked, and pooped on because she doesn't like critters? Or does she not like critters because they did all those things to her? Is it the chicken or the egg? Oh, and she hates chickens too. This is Camilla. Ever since she started Jungian therapy, she's been writing down her dreams in the morning. She's excited as Thursday comes around and she can go to her regular therapy session and hear what her analyst has to say about them. She's fascinated by the symbols, some of them ancient, who arrive after she dozes off. Of late, she's been more interested in what happens during her nightly forays into her deepest unconscious than in what happens in daily life. And it's starting to bug the hell out of her husband. Her name is Desi, short for Desdemona. She's the lead singer for her jazz band, Night and Day. Currently, she's regretting her decision to take her guys on a round-the-world cruise to do nightly shows. Desi is trying hard to keep her cool, but she can't believe how much trouble 4 adult men can get into in such a short amount of time. She thinks they're now plotting to jump ship in Cape Town, leaving her with bills and a very angry captain. This is William. Since William moved to the Bay Area from a suburb in Connecticut, he has immersed himself in reading next door. His research has convinced him he needs a security camera for his front porch, a cage for his catalytic converter, padlocks for his garbage cans, an electric 12-foot fence for the backyard, and a GPS tracker for his French bulldog, Marie Antoinette. This is Helen. Helen's life is perfect. She is thrilled with her job, which is electrical engineer for Shell Oil Company. She has a great apartment, a great car. She's able to take interesting and adventurous vacations to places like Argentina and Nepal. Her only problem is her mother, who keeps asking if she has met any nice young men. One of these days, Helen swears she's going to fly to Florida with her wife and introduce her to her mother. This is Mirabella. Mirabella is a dancer who lives on Coca-Cola, cigarettes, and Cheetos. She weighs 98 pounds and performs on Broadway. At 35, she's started to feel her age and hasn't had a period in 10 years. Mirabella knows that if she went to a doctor, he would scold her for her habits. So she doesn't go to the doctor. She's only a couple of years away from breaking 6 bones in her foot and having to face giving up dance forever. This is Charlotte. Petting her dog, Norman Rockwell, is a comfort to both Charlotte and the dog. This is Seth. Just fired from Twitter, Seth is pissed. Only a month ago, he bought a Tesla instead of a Beamer. He is so mad at the Tesla, he stopped getting it detailed or even getting it washed. This is Carmen. She's a classically trained pianist. She likes to say she's married to the arts, poetry, painting, sculpture. But it is music that most moves her. Sometimes she's so struck by the beauty of a certain piece, she will begin to cry. She can't help herself. This is Dennis. Even though he's totally healthy, Dennis cannot stop thinking he's about to die. His friends have gotten tired trying to convince him otherwise. They have switched gears and are now trying to get him to take up pickleball, a sport Dennis is sure would kill him. This is Jane, a warden of a medium security prison for men. Jane has seen the worst of the worst and the saddest of the saddest. It's the sad ones that are the hardest, the guys who ended up in prison because they never caught any breaks. Sweet guys who wouldn't hurt a fly, who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or the guys who were real assholes, but once they got in, actually worked to become decent human beings. She thinks of the man who runs the AA meetings and the man who organized a gospel choir. Those are the ones who have broken her heart again and again. They dream of the day they'll get out, but she knows it's often no dream on the outside. Then there are the mean ones, the crazy ones, the guys who couldn't figure out anything else to do but pull a gun out and use it. They too have been chewing on her soul for decades now. This is Francois. Francois is a name she chose for herself because it's French. Her parents named her Joyce, which she thought was okay, but not, well, French. In college, she majored in French literature and now teaches French to high school students. Her students love her because she always talks to them about her yearly trips to Paris and because she wears awesome clothes. They think she's the coolest teacher in Port Arthur, Texas. She tells them about Sartre and how they must invent their own purpose. The school board has a beat on her. This is Ray, and Ray is mad, really mad. Mad at the Democrats, mad at Nancy Pelosi, mad at women's libbers, mad at the gays, mad at the Mexicans who she says are ruining the country. But Ray's brother is gay, and her next door neighbor, Lucinda, a woman who helps her get her garbage can out to the street, is Mexican. She's not mad at them. They don't count, she says. Ray doesn't believe her brother is actually gay, even though he's told her about 100 times. And her neighbor, she doesn't count either, since unlike every Mexican she's heard about on Fox News, Lucinda doesn't collect welfare or sell drugs. And as for Democrats, Ray says she doesn't know any, but if she did, she says she'd spit in their eye. And Nancy Pelosi, she'd spit in her eye too. This is Estelle. Estelle speaks with a whispery voice about peace, love, and understanding. She's convinced her college to let her major in puppetry. She believes the world a fundamentally kind and beautiful place, and also believes she will be able to make a living putting on puppet shows at public libraries. Estelle sleeps soundly and worries about nothing. This is Estelle's mother, Mia. She worries about everything, including, or especially, Estelle. This is Muriel. Muriel is a hostess at a seafood restaurant in Santa Barbara. Muriel's job is being nice to people, and she is so sick of it. For once, she would love to say something like, "You want a table of 10, but there's only 2 of you here? Then go to hell. Just have a picnic on the sidewalk." This is Paul Beard, Dr. McCormick. That's his character's name, a part he plays on a soap opera, Lives Unfolded. Sometimes he jokes to himself they should fold back up some of those lives. 3 or 4 days a week, he's on the set looking concerned, always looking concerned. He knows the gestures, the hand on the shoulder of a fellow doctor, a stern look at the nurse who's addicted to painkillers, and the serious conversation with a patient who has missed his last 2 appointments because, well, of course, he has amnesia. Paul Beard is his real name. He wishes people would quit stopping him in the grocery store to tell him their symptoms. This is Susan. Susan is a noted political writer, and she teaches sociology at Yale. She's published in the New York Review of Books, The Times, The New Yorker, as well as numerous academic publications. When she goes to parties, which is almost every weekend, Susan holds court. She doesn't throw parties. Cooking or hiring a caterer is not her thing. Because she's Susan, she can get away with it. This is Avery. Avery got it from her grandfather, her love of puns. Clean puns, dirty puns, any kind of pun. Same goes for limericks. Her favorite t-shirt has a picture of a goat with the caption, uh-oh, okay. Okay. It hasn't been coming through? Oh, shoot. Okay. Avery got it from her grandfather, her love of puns, clean puns, dirty puns, any kind of pun. Same goes for limericks. Her favorite t-shirt has a picture of a goat with the caption, "You've goat to be kidding me." Over the years, she's learned that not everybody likes puns and limericks. Her former best friend told her she'd be happy if she never heard another pun again. Avery was thrilled to find both a limerick Facebook group and a pun Facebook group. Avery's other passion is Star Trek. She owns the original Star Trek series DVD collection, as well as all the DVDs for Star Trek: The Next Generation. Avery calls herself a Trekkie through and through and counts the days until the next Star Trek convention. This is Sue and Frank. The couple are criminals, hot checks, credit card fraud, identity theft. They met in high school where they had fun, skipping school, smoking dope in the parking lot, and stealing the answers to various exams and selling them. They have a trunk full of license plates, which makes it easy for them to stay in motels and skip out without paying. She's the brains of the operation, and they are not strangers to prison. This is Pedro. Pedro plays trumpet in a salsa band. He thinks about his baby granddaughter who died from a heart defect last year. You can hear his grief in his music sometimes. This is Simon. Simon believes art supplies should be paid for by the government. Paint should be free, he says. What, is building highways more important than creating art? Art is medicine for the soul, medicine for the spirit. Highways are medicine for nothing. They're medicine for trucks. This is Elliot. Elliot is a fairly impoverished English poet who lives in a tiny flat in London. He ekes out a living by selling a painfully small number of books and by teaching classes here and there. He often gets fired from his teaching gigs by making one too many female students cry. He has a special loathing for Mary Oliver, who he calls the queen of self-help poetry. and he dismisses Sylvia Plath with equal contempt. Actually, aside from Emily Dickinson, he finds the vast majority of female poets to be utterly lacking in substance or merit. He's a bachelor now, twice divorced. One of his ex-wives would like to kill him. During those early months of COVID, Dr. Remedios worked 18-hour days. Terrified she would bring the virus home to her husband and teenage daughter, she rented a hotel room near the hospital so she could sleep. Like a lot of other doctors and nurses, she worked without proper protective clothing and ventilation. Over the phone to her husband, she said she could never look herself in the eye again if she ran away. With patients stacked up in the hallways, coughing and struggling to breathe, she said it reminded her of a war zone. When she started coughing herself, she kept working, not wanting to believe the worst. She thought just pushing through would conquer the virus. It didn't. Dr. Julia Remedios died of COVID in the spring of 2020. This is Jade. This is Jade. There's a side to Jade that doesn't listen to reason and likes to pick fights. This is that side. Mrs. Pearson is old enough to remember the Jim Crow South and is young enough to continue to fight to bend the arc of the moral universe. She's an activist, a community organizer, a teacher, a city council member, a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. Mrs. Pearson is a friend to so many people she's lost count. In her living room is a picture of Jesus and a photo of President Barack Obama shaking her hand. This is Effie. Moving to San Francisco from small-town Kentucky has been excruciating for Effie. Moving to Mars would have been easier, she thinks. She was lucky to get a room at the YWCA downtown, but finding work has been impossible. Someone actually laughed when she told them she graduated from Murray State College in Kentucky. Since she got her degree in computers, it seemed logical to move to the Bay Area, but her hair is wrong, her clothes are wrong, and her accent is wrong. Going home would be impossible. She graduated at the top of her class, and everyone said they knew she would do great things. So she keeps applying for jobs, but has come to think of Kentucky winters are nothing compared to the coldness of California. This is Mary Louise and Fred. Since Mary Louise got what her husband calls the big C, they have to spend a lot of time in hospitals and in waiting rooms. Fred hates hospitals and feels extremely uncomfortable and out of place. While Mary Louise gets chemo, he sits and plays poker on the phone. Fred thinks it's kind of his wife's fault she got cancer. He has a hard time listening to her. He's not even totally sure what kind of cancer she has. This is Betty. Betty is starting to have a strange feeling about her new boyfriend, James. He's smart, almost too smart. Eastern religions, check. The inner mechanics of a dishwasher, check. All the battles of the Civil War, he can list each and every one. It's almost like talking with Wikipedia, except he knows way more than Wikipedia. And then there was a time they went ice skating. It was supposedly his first time. And within minutes, he completed a perfect triple axel. A triple Axel, are you kidding? And his jokes, they're odd, like he read them in a book or saw them on TV. So Betty's been thinking and thinking. Is it possible that James is a robot? Andrew teaches painting at Berkeley City College. It's a position he finds both annoying and embarrassing. He's equally irritated by the girls who want to hang around after class and talk with him. Don't they know I'm gay, he thinks? Andrew believes he should be in New York. It is there where his life would begin. He would meet important people, and he would be represented by what he calls a decent gallery. Andrew is worried about his paintings that are languishing in a San Francisco gallery, which is he's sure is about to go out of business. He imagines his work is about to disappear when the owners skip town. This is Desi. She has an abscessed back tooth. Her dentist agreed it has to come out. She's been informed that despite the fact she has an appointment, Dr. Erskine has taken what the receptionist called a greatly deserved mental health day. Standing in the bland waiting room with the dull paintings of flowers, which she is sure are supposed to be calming, Daisy is thinking of calling the police. This is Mickey. Mickey's goal in life is to become an it girl. She can't imagine anything better than going to fabulous parties and getting photographed and becoming an Instagram phenomena. It's not easy because Mickey can afford to, yes, pick up a thing or two from Saks, but a whole wardrobe? No way. So she scrounges what she has figured out are the best thrift stores. Unfortunately, out of necessity, she has succumbed to what everyone in high school called five-finger discount. She shrugs and philosophizes, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. Mickey understands being an it girl is not just about having the right look, you've got to have the right personality. And since she's only 19 and prone to anxiety, Mickey has sometimes drank too much, usually on an empty stomach. She has learned it girls do not throw up, at least where anyone can see you, and certainly not on anybody's rug, anybody's expensive rug. This is Monica. Getting old and sick has surprised and frightened her. The loneliness of it. She feels she's turning into a piece of fluff. It's a shock finding herself in a hospital where people 50 years younger than her speak to her as if she were a preschooler. She hates that they call her by her first name. Their voices are overly loud. She can feel the distance. They don't want to get involved in her suffering, and she understands. But still, she wishes someone would just be real. Someone would say, you're in a hell of a bad way, and I'm here with you. It's been a few days since her daughter visited. Her daughter is far away, too. It's like she's saying, this is not my world. I belong outside with the sunshine, the trees, and the ocean, with my kids, with my husband. I wish you well, but there's nothing I can do. But her daughter doesn't actually say these things, only asked her mother, what did the doctor say? And are you eating? This is Betsy. She lives in small-town Mississippi. Her family arrived there before the Civil War. She works at the library and writes poetry and short stories. She's been published in some literary journals. Her mother taught her to love people, even when you disagree with them or when you get frustrated with their ignorance. You will find Eudora Welty and Faulkner on her bookshelf, as well as Mark Twain, her favorite. She has an old yellow dog who sleeps at her feet when she writes. Every year she goes to New York where she can go to St. John the Divine, the theater, and stores where she can find decent clothes. How's the time look? What's the time? Oh, I'm okay. Okay. All right, this is Melissa. For Melissa, the whole Facebook thing started with the pandemic. It was a lonely time being stuck in the house, and Facebook was kind of fun. Seeing old friends, watching cat videos, sometimes getting into political arguments. And then Melissa isn't exactly sure when things seemed to kind of go off the rails. First, it was checking again and again to see what her ex-boyfriend was posting. Then it was seeing that some people seemed to be going on vacations and having fabulous times. Melissa felt a little like a ghost watching them. So she decided to start posting stuff herself. At first, it was just some flowers in her backyard or dogs sleeping in a doorway, but no one clicked like. That was upsetting. Then she decided to post a video of herself reading her poetry. People are going to love this, she thought. It will give them a feeling of peace. That's when the trolls arrived, writing things so awful, so vile about her in her poem. She kept hearing their words at night when she was trying to sleep. Now Melissa doesn't know what to do. Maybe she thinks seeing a therapist would be a good idea. Maybe one on Zoom. This is Jonah. Jonah feels twisted up inside, like his soul is a weaving of love, anger, fear, generosity, and confusion, especially when it comes to white people. He wants to love and understand everyone, just like Jesus says. But just when things seem to be going well in a relationship, the other person says something, does something, and Jonah can't trust them anymore. He feels tired trying to understand people, trying to judge their characters. It's like constantly playing this game and not really getting the rules. The only time Jonah feels comfortable is when he's working out at the gym down the street. This is Mara. She has just found out the newly hired man, the guy she's training, is making a third more than she is. This is Anne. Anne has taught English literature at Princeton for 22 years. Before that, she taught at Brown for 18 years. She thinks she will retire soon. Anne laughs to herself and asks if she will dare eat a peach or if she will roll up her trousers and walk on the sand. What did 40 years of English literature do to me is her question now. It's her final exam. This is Elizabeth. She lives in San Francisco's Pacific Heights. Her husband was a judge. He's gone now. It's been 6 years, and she's still mad at him for not managing his diabetes and for having a heart attack while they were on vacation. A heart attack on the plane? Sometimes when she's making breakfast, she stands in the kitchen and yells at him. She knows it's crazy as she screams, why didn't you bring your heart medication with you? And how did you get diabetes? It takes a few minutes for Elizabeth to calm down. While she makes her toast, she tells him how embarrassing it was to have the paramedics board the plane and take him away, and how the other passengers stared and stared. Elizabeth has never told her friends or family about how mad she still is or how embarrassed she was on that day. How can you be mad at a dead person, they would say. He didn't deliberately die. And how shallow you are, being embarrassed at a time like that. So Elizabeth doesn't talk to them, knowing the only person who would understand would be her husband. This is Kokoro. Kokoro entered the monastery at age 23 when his name was not Kokoro, but Noah Rasmussen. He was searching for the meaning of life. At the monastery, he found a quiet joyfulness, and maybe that is the meaning of life. He doesn't miss the chaos of the outside world, but he enjoys the students from the village who come to study meditation and listen to the abbot's Dharma talks. Of late, the chaos of the world has been seeping into the monastery as he has learned the abbot has been enjoying the female students a little bit too much, or maybe a lot too much. Kokoro doesn't want to know, but he does know. Okay, will you tell me when I should stop? Yeah, thanks. Okay, this is Lena. Lena is an aging Italian film star. She treasures her privacy, but hates the fact that no one asks her for her autograph anymore, and younger people have never heard of her. Waiting in line for anything is infuriating, and humiliation is getting seated in a dark corner next to the kitchen at a restaurant. This is Phil. Phil was in the military for 53 years, Germany, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. Retired, it's now the golf course, the pool house, the grocery store, and the card table with his wife's friends. Phil's doing his best to never admitting how confused and out of place he sometimes feels. Phil's wife can recognize his walk before she recognizes him. Shoulders square, his back ramrod straight. This is Tamara. Tamara is so angry she has a hard time eating or even relaxing. She wants to go on a cruise with her friends, but wonders if she'll be able to forget about her brother who got shot. Will she be able to forget about her clients, the welfare recipients who struggled day and night just to survive? But damn it, why shouldn't she go on a cruise? Isn't that what people do? This is Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu lives in an upstairs apartment in the Mission District of San Francisco with his wife, Mrs. Liu. He has no complaints except for the high school kid downstairs who plays the same record, Saturday Night Fever, every day when he gets home from school. Mr. and Mrs. Liu have taken to picking up one end of their sofa and dropping it to the floor to try to let the kid know how much they hate the noise. It makes the record skip, but the kid just puts the needle back on and turns it up again. This is Bud. Bud lives downstairs from Mr. Liu and has no idea what the periodic large thud from upstairs means. He dreams of the day he'll own his own muscle car and when he can meet the famous race car driver, Mel Canelli. His mother dreams of the day he'll clean up his room. This is Bud's mother, Ava. A grungy room is actually the least of Ava's worries about Bud. There's also his math class, his Spanish class, and his English class, as well as the cost of his athletic shoes. She has tried to explain to him that he could reach higher than a muscle car and getting race car driver Mel Canelli's autograph. You aren't meeting up to your potential, she's told him. All right, we're back with Bud and Mr. Liu and everybody, and this is Mel Canelli. Mel Canelli would agree that Bud is not meeting up to his potential. According to Mel, Bud should forget the muscle car and focus on a Porsche. As he's often said, American cars are not what they should be, and as one of the hottest race car drivers in the country, Mel knows of what he speaks. For Mel Canelli, driving is a spiritual experience, and when he's racing, it's like being in heaven and hell at the same time. Similar to a monk who has explored the depths of his being and knows his own heart, Mel knows his car. He refers to it as a technological miracle. To call what Mel does behind the wheel mindfulness vastly underestimates his abilities of concentration, a concentration that has become his essence. Mel is a man who eats when he eats and sleeps when he sleeps. He's awake when he's awake, and of course, Mel drives when he drives. This is Angie. Angie lost her rescue dog, Pepper, last year. The dog somehow got out of the yard and was hit by a car. Mixed with grief is the awful guilt, even though her priest has told her he was sure the dog forgives her. Angie gets some comfort from the idea that Pepper lives in her heart always, and she wants to believe the priest about the dog's forgiveness. Angie doesn't want to get another dog because she's afraid of the grief that might come if she lost a second dog. What if that dog died too? This is Meredith. Meredith used to work as a 911 dispatcher. Meredith now works behind a desk at the San Francisco Impound, the city's tollway lot. She's relieved she's behind bulletproof glass because most of the people who show up at her window are furious. Furious their car was towed, furious they have to pay to get out, and furious about the amount. Sometimes the fury escalates to nuclear when they find out they have to also pay their parking tickets. She's heard every story, people having to get their car out of the impound for free because they have to get to work, or they have to pick up their kids, or they have to take themselves or their mom to the hospital. It's always a hospital, Meredith says, emergency room usually. But how could it be an emergency if they're at the impound? She once asked someone, why didn't he just take the Muni or get an Uber? Forget the car, forget the boot that was on your car for 6 months, forget the parking tickets. Meredith quickly learned that she had just asked the stupidest question in the universe when the man looked at her squarely in the eye and said, does Muni have a stop in Tahoe? This is Olivia. Olivia's husband doesn't understand why she spends so much time at the shooting range practicing. Practicing for what? It doesn't seem right. Well, there's a lot of things about Olivia he doesn't quite understand. Why, for example, does she go to Saudi Arabia and Russia so much? He knows she's a financial analyst and they have to research potential investments, but Russia? And why is her supposed office, which he's never seen, in Washington and not New York? His mother warned him about Olivia, said she was the sneakiest girl in the neighborhood. He thought maybe Olivia might try to cheat on him, but he doesn't think that's going on. He has come to believe she works for the CIA. This is Mr. Peters. Mr. Peters works in the men's department of Nordstrom. He's not sure why, but when he's at work, he's endlessly annoyed. Someone folded the sweaters bizarrely, he says. The cash register is $27 short at the end of the day. The alterations lady didn't show up again and didn't call. When a customer came in to return a shirt he clearly worn, Mr. Peters thought he might punch him in the face. Instead of quitting, he's thinking of quitting, but he can't imagine what he would do instead. This is Harold. Harold has not recovered from Desert Storm. His tour of duty lasted only 2 weeks before he saw it. He's never been able to or wanted to tell anyone what it was. When he got back to the States, it's like his eyes were focused inward instead of outward. He lives in his brother's basement and inputs medical invoices for a doctor's office. He is grateful to his brother and sister-in-law for all the stuff they do for him, but he's never told them. Okay. All right. Okay. Can we go to Heather? This is Heather. As a child, she loved to run away from home. Not that she was particularly unhappy, but running away seemed like such a great adventure. Before sunrise, she would climb out of her window, climb down the tree next to it, and hop on her bike and just ride, feeling free. After a while, she'd start to worry about what her parents would think when they saw she was gone. So she'd ride back home, climb back up the tree and through the window before anyone knew she had been gone. This is Margaret. Margaret works for a high-end architectural firm. She's the office manager and doesn't understand why they want her to sit in on the meetings. It gives her a ferocious headache that doesn't go away until she's had 3 glasses of wine after work. This is Stella. Stella has lived in Queens all her life. In fact, she's never left New York except for a short vacation to Florida. She has a small manicure place painted pink and turquoise and has had the same customers for decades. She loves it, loves the gossip, loves seeing old friends. What she doesn't like are the manicurists who don't show up for work or who do a bad job. She's a little worried now. Her doctor says her numbers for her liver are off. She's not sure what that means, except she read an article in the Times about how toxic nail polish is and how toxic nail polish and nail polish remover are. She hadn't wanted to believe it. Joni is in retail, a manager at Bloomingdale's. When she was trying to figure out what she would like to do with herself, she asked herself what her favorite thing to do was. Easy. Joni's absolute favorite thing to do was going shopping. She started out in high school as a clerk, earning money to buy clothes and makeup. After she graduated, she worked her way up to manager, but now she's frustrated she can't get any higher up the ladder. She dreads the idea of going to college to advance. This is Coach Stender. Coaching college football is all he's ever known. Unfortunately, Coach Stender has hypertension no matter how much medication he takes and no matter how much salt he cuts out of his diet. There's nothing like a game, any kind of game, win, lose, or draw, to send his blood pressure leaping into the stratosphere. His doctor got him to try and meditate at night, but always the plays, start going through his head, and he's back in the world of football. This is Maria. Maria loves her family and hates her family. She can't say exactly why she loves them. Maybe it's because they're funny and goofy, especially her younger brothers and sisters, but she hates them because she has to take care of them all the time. Her mother is sick and her father works long, dirty hours for a sewer company. And it's been hard for Maria getting through high school. She's missed a lot of days, especially when she has to get her mother to the doctor. When she doesn't understand a school lesson, she gets frustrated and gives up. She doesn't want to go to college because she's afraid she won't do well. She's also afraid of leaving her family. What would they do without her? Maria can't remember ever actually talking with a teacher, but if she did, there'd be a lot Maria could teach them. This is Edgar. Edgar is a top-drawer criminal defense lawyer specializing in white-collar cases. The only thing he fears is going on vacation. He will agree to his wife's pleas if the place they go to has a golf course, a good restaurant or 3, and a bar. An adventure vacation that involves hiking anywhere is his idea of hell. Okay, this is Mr. Drury. Mr. Drury lives in a San Francisco's Mission District in a basement apartment that he shares with a large number of mice. There are mice traps all around the baseboards. At night, Mr. Drury hears the mice traps going off. Each time it gives him a tiny thrill, like when he wins the New York Times spelling bee and his phone declares him a genius. He owns a dark and tiny used bookstore that smells like a dark and tiny used bookstore. His coat jacket is brown wool with worn leather patches on the sleeves. It still bothers him that one of his customers told him he looked like a cliche. Mr. Drury has two mortal enemies in life besides the mice and sunshine: Amazon and Kindle, especially Amazon. He's given up most of his hopes and dreams: the hope of finding a woman, the hope of moving out of his apartment, the hope of taking away everyone's library cards. Only one hope remains: the hope of destroying Amazon. Somebody's got to do it, he says to his cat Myrtle, who seems to enjoy watching the mice run from one side of the room to the other. He chose her name because it rhymes with turtle, and he blames her failure to catch any mice on congenital slowness. Mr. Drury meditates on Amazon, Jeff Bezos, and sometimes, when he's particularly grumpy, Elon Musk. Who's going to stop them, he mutters to Myrtle. You think the Democrats are going to do it? The state of California? The Supreme Court? The EU? Mr. Drury is yet to come up with a plan. Okay, that's it.
Leslie, those were so unique. Just beautiful. We've never seen anything like that before. I just want to say that I hope other people come here to look at the whole exhibit. It's so wonderful. And on our south wall, there are some very unusual pictures, which are actually my favorite ones. There are pictures about pigs, they're about cows, and one is about a bunny. And the little bunny is looking, and it says, the night before he goes, he gave his eyes to the cosmetic industry. And the bunny's looking down in a mirror at his eyes for the last time. And there's a message there. And then one is a picture of people holding two beautiful pigs. And it just says, the industry. That's all it has to say. It was just lovely. And another picture of a cow, and it says, I am someone, not something. And that's a beautiful picture too. All of those animal pictures are just wonderful. I'm sorry you didn't have a chance to show them all. And so, any questions here? I've got one here. Who are your greatest inspirations in art and writing?
In art, I'm really fond of Alice Neal's, who paints people. And geez, inspiration in terms of writing. I don't know. I guess I have to say I agree with one of my characters. I love Mark Twain. Yeah.
Well, the other one is the same. I think is who inspires you to draw or paint your characters?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Real people? Or?
No. Well, there's, it's kind of things that have happened in life, and they kind of weave together. Like, let me think of an example. Well, the woman whose husband had the heart attack on the plane, I used to work with this woman who went to Africa, and she's on the plane with her husband, and they're about to have dinner, and she says to him, did you bring your testing stuff to test your blood sugar? And he said, no, I'm on vacation. I left all that at home. And so that story just stuck with me. And you think about these things, and then something happens. You think about it. And I don't. Yeah, also like the story of the woman who lost her dog, and she doesn't want to get another one. A friend of mine, his dog got out of the yard, and somebody who was staying with him let this dog out of the yard, and the dog ended up getting hit on the highway. And he told him, don't let the dog out. He did, and the dog got killed. And then another friend of mine, who I think is on this Zoom call, when she lost her dog, it was so painful. She just couldn't think about getting another one. So, yeah, it's just, things that happen to you in life, and they kind of percolate, and then you it changes, and that's how I do it. But basically, the images, I make the images first, and then the story kind of happens. So it's like the people sort of introduce themselves to me. So that's kind of how it works.
Hi, thanks so much. I had two questions, and actually the first one was that thing you just answered. Do you draw first and then describe the person?
Yeah.
Or do you plan a person and then draw?
I find it really, really difficult to like have an idea and then try to illustrate it. It doesn't click for me as well as doing the image and then having the story. So, I mean, that's the whole process of illustration. When people, kids' books especially, there's a story and then you get the images, but that's not how I do it.
My other question was that some of the faces, they're so ambivalent and so unbalanced. And I was trying to look at the Maria, for example, the one about Maria. If you look at one side of her face, she looks one way, and the other side of the face,
Wow.
she looks another way. And,
Yeah.
and you think, wow, people are really torn. And some of these, you see, they're so ambivalent.
Yeah.
And I was just really impressed with that
Wow.
things aren't just one way. There are many ways, and it really comes across. So I
Ooh,
really
thanks.
enjoyed that. Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
noticing that.
Yeah, I was putting my hand up just to look
Yeah.
at some of the faces to see how it's two different pictures.
Yeah, that's how they, yeah. Somebody said to me, oh, the characters are weird. These are weird people. And I prefer to think about it in terms, sort of philosophically, as the beautiful brokenness that is, to me, the human condition. And none of us escape that, It's life breaks us. And, like Melba, at the beginning of the piece, we get broken and then we get fixed. And you can't get fixed if you don't get broken. You can't feel the joy unless you feel the pain. So,
Hey, here's another question. How long does it take to draw or paint one of your cartoons?
yeah.
Please explain the process.
Oh, okay. Some of the drawings are really fast, and some of the paintings I spend more time with. But obviously, it's not photorealism where someone spends 6 months on a painting. That's not how I roll. And as Bruce mentioned, I studied with Stuart Cubley on process painting. And he really encourages people to focus not on what it looks like, but just on the process of doing it. And so he has people for his classes, he'll set up a table with a whole array of different colors. And so you go to the table, what color pulls you? And whatever, blue. And then walk over to the paper. What does your arm feel like doing? And you can see, especially in some of the drawings, you might look at the lines and you think, oh, that's not how a face goes. But I would make the line just because it felt good for my arm to do that. And suddenly there's a face there. And suddenly, the face is someone. And so it's kind of like, I guess the surrealists were very interested in what they called automatic writing. And it's kind of the artistic version of automatic writing, I think. So, yeah.
Here's another question from the audience.
Yeah.
Combining art with stories is quite unique. How did you get the idea to do that?
That is so weird because to me, it just seems so obvious that artists would do that. And they're always, when you read the little blurb in museums about what people are doing, they say, well, there's a story, blah, blah, blah. But I've never seen anybody do art and do a story. And it just seems like, well, why not? of course you would do that, So another thing in my process painting classes, the teacher would always say, always do the next easiest thing when you're doing something. Do the next easiest thing. And for me, to do these paintings and drawings is easy, and the stories is easy. It doesn't feel like work or effort to me. So I encourage everyone to do the next easiest thing. Yeah. So, I really, I just appreciate the opportunity to be here and have you guys see this and hear this. It's super great for me. This is the greatest thing for my artwork that I've ever experienced. So just having this big show here, and it's such a beautiful space, and I'm just really grateful for the whole deal. I'm very grateful to the church because they've been so, supportive, and it's just wonderful. So, yes.
Because the media is fairly simple, so they would reproduce well. Are you thinking about doing a book?
I would really like to do a book. That's another thing that seems kind of obvious to me as well. And that's on my list of stuff to pursue. Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Well, thank you so much again for being here. I really appreciate it.
That was great. I got a real kick out of that. I mean, it's interesting. One thing I was thinking about is there's so much diversity. Even within the diversity of this country, there's so much diversity of experience and the way people react. Really comes across here. So, yeah. Did you have something to say? Oh, yeah. You mean the video? Oh, yeah. I was going to say something about that. Before I do, though, I would like to mention that, you see me up here, or you see Dolores up here, David. The real power behind the throne, so to speak, is Jonathan. This whole production and this whole this whole forum would not be possible without the incredible work of Jonathan. And believe me, I couldn't even describe all of the stuff that he's done. And this is a really important space that we have here. We're very fortunate to have it. And Jonathan was the person behind it all. So anyway, that's important to say. As far as the video is concerned, every forum now is being videotaped or recorded. And it's going to be available on YouTube. But you can also get to it by going to uusf.org. And at the top, there's a menu called Engage, and one of the items is Engage. If you scroll down on Engage, you'll see Forum, click on Forum, and then you scroll down on Forum, and you'll come to a place where there's the archive of all the past videos. This video will be there. If you watch this video or any of the videos from Forum in the past, please, if you can remember to do this, like them and subscribe, because that really helps. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but Jonathan has told me that really helps. It really helps. So anyway, I take his word for it. So, and at the same time, I will send a copy of this video, this recording, to everybody who's on the forum email list. So if you're not on the email list and want to get a copy of this, or a link to it, I should say, you can sign up back at the back table. Next week, and Dolores, I maybe mentioned this or not, I'm not sure, but Wayne Xiong is going to be here. Wayne Xiong is a remarkable presenter, but a remarkable person in general. He's an attorney who has done an enormous amount of work to protect animals and to expose the horrors of the factory farming, and a very courageous person on top of being extremely articulate and brilliant in many ways. Anyway, he's going to be here, and he's going to be talking about diet. And he's going to be talking about things you can actually do to protect the planet by the way we eat. And the title of his talk, I don't have it here. What's the title of his talk, Dolores? I thought I had one. Anyway, what is it? Yeah, it's something like change your diet. It's not exactly that, but anyway, it's something like that. By the way, if anyone here or anyone is on Zoom has any suggestions for future forums, you can mail us suggestions or comments to forum@uusf.org. And one final thing before we end here, we will be continuing forum. Oh, Paul, you have a question?
I didn't have a question, but I wanted to mention that the artwork is for sale and that 25% of the proceeds go to the Unitarian.
Okay, so the artwork that's here up on the wall? Okay, the artwork is for sale. Are there prices on them? Oh, okay. So yeah, if anybody wants to, yeah, okay. And the proceeds go to the church. That's right? 25% go to the church. Okay. All right. Thank you, Paul. Forum will be continuing until the end of June, and then we'll be off for 2 months after that. So in the first one after Wayne's presentation, which will be next Sunday, June 11, we'll have Extinction Rebellion. Someone from Extinction Rebellion, also obviously around global climate change, will be here. An activist group that's done a great deal to raise the important level of activity, which needs to increase. But anyway, they'll be here to talk about that. And there'll be others after that. We'll be sending out information about that. So thank you, everyone, for coming. For those of you who are on Zoom, thank you.